Welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to take a single, a really personal stack of source material, a testimonial written 47 days after major surgery, and use it as a shortcut into the emotional and physical reality of recovery.
That's right. We're zeroing in on the post-operative journey following a prostatectomy. And we're not looking at clinical averages here. We're looking at one individual navigating health goals, frustration, and the often unspoken complexity of healing.
So for you, the learner, the task is to really understand the emotional cost when progress isn't linear.
Exactly. Even when the body is visibly getting stronger.
The entry we have is dated September 30th. And at 47 days post-op, the subject presents this immediate and pretty painful paradox. Physically, he feels substantial gains. He says he's sturdy and practically stronger.
Yeah, which is huge. But emotionally, he is deeply frustrated. And it's because the functional healing, the part he cares about most, has seen, and this is his quote, no significant changes.
And that contrast is really what we're here to unpack.
This difference between the visible physical strength and that invisible functional delay, that's key to the psychology of recovery. We're here to extract those nuggets of insight about patients, about the philosophy of exercise he's adopting, and, how you manage expectations when healing just moves at its own speed.
So let's unpack the good news first. Because the physical recovery, it seems like it's been pretty rapid and dramatic.
It has. At day 47, the strength has clearly returned, especially in his core and legs.
And this is where we get a really specific and I think phenomenal detail. The individual reports a major comeback in cycling.
Yeah, he's pedaling vigorously now. Putting real torque and power into it, which is just a massive indicator of restored muscle function and, endurance.
He even anchors this with this fantastic anecdote. Just 3 days before writing this, he was on a bike trip, and he comes to a steep incline.
Right.
And he realized he could actively push down and push down on the pedals again. That tells you his muscular power is back, or at least very close to pre-op levels. This isn't just movement, it's exertion.
That cycling prowess is definitely a huge physical benchmark, and I'm sure it provides a massive psychological boost. But you have to balance that success with the limitations.
Which are just as important.
They're sharp reminders that recovery is always uneven.
So what does that limitation look like for him?
Well, on the day he wrote this, he walked about 7 kilometers, which is a significant distance,
Sure.
But, and this is the key, he explicitly states that he still cannot run. He's got this persistent leg pain that just prevents him from doing it.
This strikes me as a really fascinating distinction. He can sit and vigorously apply power to a hill on a bike, yet he can't handle the impact of jogging.
It absolutely is. The cycling motion is less weight-bearing. It's more fluid. It sort of protects the legs from the jarring impact that running causes.
I see.
It allows him to use those powerful leg muscles he's regained, but without, compressing the joints or stressing the soft tissues in the same way. It's a smart, moderated choice, but it just reinforces that the internal systemic healing isn't complete yet. He's strong, but he's not fully healed.
And that leads us directly to the real source of the strain here, the rapid return of strength. As great as it is, it almost feels like a psychological defense, doesn't it? A kind of a distraction from the core issue.
Which is the urinary function.
Exactly. That's what's causing the most emotional volatility.
This is the emotional roller coaster at the heart of the source material. He describes these cyclical periods of just intense optimism. He'll go to the bathroom, and for a brief, glorious moment, he thinks, yes, everything is working.
He even says it feels like it did back in the best years. You can almost feel that surge of hope.
Totally. The belief that he's beaten the odds, that he's finally done with all this. But then that moment passes.
It's the highest of highs, followed by a crushing fall.
He realizes the reality is that the leakage, the dripping, it's still happening. And that immediate shift from optimism to disappointment, it just completely tanks his mood. It fuels this intense feeling of being let down.
And this disappointment seems to be rooted in the promises that were made about the operation itself.
The nerve-sparing operation.
Yeah.
The expectation management around that procedure seems to have been, let's just say, highly optimistic.
What exactly was the expectation they set?
The promise, as he understood it, was that his urinary function would normalize practically immediately.
Immediately. Like how soon?
We're talking as early as the 2nd, 3rd, or maybe the 5th day after the catheter was removed.
So 47 days later, having not met that expectation, The frustration must be immense.
Oh, it is. The language he uses is powerful. He feels profoundly deceived, like the initial promise was a complete fabrication or a scam. It reflects a deep crisis of trust.
Wow.
But what's really fascinating here is the critical thinking he applies to his own emotional state. He acknowledges this conflict. On one hand, he feels misled.
But on the other, he realizes that medical professionals always include caveats.
Exactly. He notes that recovery always depends heavily on age, pre-existing conditions, individual specifics, all that.
So he's sort of arguing with himself.
He's wrestling with his frustration, but he's also using logic. He realizes that expecting immediate pre-surgical function after removing a whole organ is, in his own words, probably unrealistic. And that is the key takeaway for you, the listener. It's that internal dissonance between the high, optimistic expectations and the slow, complex reality of how the human body actually heals.
So he's fighting the expectation, not just the physical reality.
Precisely. It's a cognitive battleground. And that sets us up perfectly for the next internal conflict, which is this great exercise debate he described.
Right, this is happening in an online community he's part of.
Yeah, and you have these hotheads, as he calls them, people with very strong opinions, advising him to just stop all physical activity.
Just lie on the couch and wait, fearing that any exertion will cause self-harm.
This is such a classic recovery dilemma, aggressive rest versus active rehabilitation. And the subject's viewpoint is firmly against that lie-down advice. His whole philosophy is that movement is necessary.
That being inactive and stuck on a couch is just fundamentally wrong for recovery, both physically and mentally.
And we should remember this is someone who is tracking their recovery meticulously. Just to ground us in the medical context here, he notes his PSA, the prostate-specific antigen level, before the operation was 15.
Right, that's the key marker they're all watching post-op. He's educated and diligent about his numbers.
That's a crucial detail. Someone tracking their PSA that closely isn't going to be reckless. His rejection of the couch potato approach is entirely pragmatic, not aggressive. And the real nugget here for anyone managing a difficult recovery is his strategy of moderation.
And how specific is he about that moderation? This is where the actionable knowledge is.
He draws a very clear line. He only does what he can do, like his walking and moderate cycling. He's very specific that he is not riding 100 kilometers, which was the standard distance for him before.
So he's consciously avoiding his past limits.
Yes. And he's also meticulous about avoiding strain on the internal repair work. He avoids difficult terrain, no heavy roads, no dirt paths, and absolutely no steep technical hills. He sticks strictly to easy asphalt.
So it's about maintaining a light degree of load, actively managing the strain, instead of just stopping altogether.
It's a powerful lesson in listening to your body while resisting that urge to totally submit to inactivity. And yet, despite this pragmatic approach, we are reminded of the emotional toll. He reports his current mood is not very positive.
Mainly because of that persistent leg pain, I imagine, and of course the continence issue.
But his belief in patience, it remains paramount.
And that patience seems to be reinforced by the community he's found. I mean, knowing you're not alone in a struggle like this can be a total game changer.
It truly is. He communicates with two comrades in misfortune, as he calls them, men who had the surgery at basically the same time.
And they're seeing the same thing.
The exact same picture of recovery. And that normalization of their uneven experience is incredibly powerful. It transforms his struggle from what feels like a personal failure into just a typical healing timeline.
And that feeling of normalcy gets reinforced by people who are further along, right?
Right. He gets positive feedback from commentators who are 2 to 3 months post-op, which provides that crucial hope. It reinforces the core idea that at only 1.5 months in, it's just too early to panic.
Which defines his current goal.
The plan is to wait 2 to 3 months for improvement and only start panicking if nothing changes after 6 months. That commitment to waiting half a year, I mean, it's a testament to the disciplined patience required for this kind of deep physiological healing.
Now, to give you all the context for this journey, the subject provides some important background. The operation took place in Moscow.
Specifically at the Sekhanov University Urology Clinic, and the surgeon was named Yanakiv.
He also mentions that his initial PSA level was 15, but that there was a later spike to 30.
Yes, but he quickly clarified that this higher reading was likely incorrect, just a transient jump taken during an acute phase. And that small detail tells us he's not just passively recovering, he is actively managing and questioning his own medical data.
Okay, so let's synthesize this whole narrative at day 47. This personal journey is, I think, a really powerful illustration of the nonlinear nature of recovery.
It really is. You see this rapid, visible, physical strengthening, cycling up a steep hill coexisting with significant emotional distress over the incontinence.
The contrast is just emotionally jarring. You have a physically resilient body that can handle this long, sustained effort.
Yet that same body is causing profound emotional stress because of a functional setback that hits the patient harder than any physical stiffness or pain.
And the lesson on movement is huge here. The importance of distinguishing between that well-meaning but maybe dangerous extreme advice, the lie down and stop everything mentality.
Right, versus his strategy of self-monitored moderate activity. It's an approach that keeps the body and the spirit engaged without risking the integrity of that internal healing process.
This deep dive, it really forces us to look beyond the clinical definition of a successful procedure and onto the patient's experience of success.
And it raises an important question. If major medical outcomes are so frequently hedged with caveats like, it depends on your unique condition and age, then it makes you wonder, how much responsibility does the patient have to critically question those optimistic promises before the procedure?
And how much is on the medical system to manage expectations honestly so that the postoperative journey isn't paved with such intense disappointment?
Something for you to ponder as you navigate the difference between clinical averages and the personal reality of healing.
That's all the time we have for this deep dive.
Until next time, keep learning.